I met Leticia the very first day of training college in Rancho Palos Verdes in California. We were both cadets, learning to be officers in the Salvation Army, and I remember seeing her in the hallway outside the classrooms. And I saw this really cute brunette, and I thought, hey, I'm gonna say hi to her. Back in those days, you had to wait till you were done in training before you got married, so we waited 6 months after we got commissioned as officers. Leticia was born with a number of autoimmune deficiency diseases, and she carried those through her life. So she had told me early on that Brian, life's not gonna be easy. We'd been married for 5 years when our son Holden came along. It was a difficult pregnancy, to say the least. There was an issue in utero, and 2 months before his due date, we did an emergency C-section, and Holden was born premature, but whole and healthy. They rushed him into the neonatal intensive care unit. And for those 8 weeks, we of course split our time between our responsibilities as officers at the training college and being with our son in the hospital. We chose the name Holden because it means out of the valley. That out of those hard and dark times, joy and love and peace and that affection was all brought together.
Where's Maya?
The reality is, through all these years, Leticia was experiencing her own health concerns. She had a number of these autoimmune diseases. She had Osgood-Schlatter's disease. She had lupus. She developed diabetes when she was a teenager. You wouldn't really know that she was experiencing these health issues and that she was facing literal death every day. As things progressed, you could start seeing little cracks in her armor, although she would never admit it. It wasn't until much later that we saw an additional decline. By then, we were living in Honolulu in Hawaii. Although we didn't know at the time, she had a very, very severe case of celiac that it turns out is incurable. And eventually, the doctors started wanting to explore what was going on, beyond just the diabetes and beyond the celiac, what was happening. So when I called the doctor one day when I couldn't revive her, he said, well, get her to the hospital right away. Almost as we got there, she started convulsing. Turns out she was having a stroke. And so they put her into an induced coma in order to reduce the damage to her brain.
Okay, now we're gonna blow out the candles.
It was in July when she first went in, and she stayed in the hospital for over 4 months as they tried to diagnose. And so she took it upon herself while she was in the hospital to write the Christmas play that the kids would do on Christmas Sunday. And so I remember, her tapping away at her on her laptop, even when she was in the hospital, and wanting to make sure those kids had something to present on Christmas Day. I was being a single dad. I was being a corps officer. I was being a husband of a very sick patient, and putting that all together. I didn't think about it. That's what needed to be done, and so I just did it. It was a couple weeks before Christmas, and I'd just gotten home late on a Friday night, and the hospital called me and said, you need to come down to the hospital. Your wife is awake, and she's asking for you. She had been in the ICU, and she had been in a coma for almost the last 2 weeks. And I found her sitting up in bed. She had her breathing mask off to the side of her face, and she was breathing normally. And she said, Brian, Brian, I talked to God tonight. God's told me it's time to come home. Holden and I decided we would stay there with her. So we had our own private vigil. And her body lasted for 3 more days.
Very, very blue. There's Holden. And we say, hi, Holden. There's a smile.
So that was a Monday afternoon when Leticia passed away, and she went home to be with the Lord. But it was also Christmas time in the Salvation Army. So I wanted to be sure that we still had Christmas. Perhaps not really understanding that the Corps also needed to grieve. That they had lost their friend, they had lost their pastor. The word in Hawaiian is Ohana, and it means family. And it's more than just a biological family. It means those who come close to you, those who will always surround you with support and encouragement. And that's exactly what they did. At some point during those weeks, I feel like I stopped being the Corps officer and just became part of the Ohana. God is with us. He does surround us with people that love us and that support us, and we can always reach out. So on that Christmas Sunday, we didn't have a regular service. The kids performed the play that Leticia had written. And when it was done, we literally wheeled the props off of the platform and wheeled in her casket for her funeral. And I think it was especially meaningful for the Corps to be able to see that her ministry, her love continued even after her death. There were those times when I had choice words for God. What in the world were you thinking, God? How could this possibly be a good idea? Leaving Holden without his mom, leaving me without my wife, leaving our Corps without its pastor. Because that's what it felt like. Indeed, that's what it still feels like. Walking through a long, dark valley, knowing that Leticia's never coming back, but knowing that God walks with us, that He's literally there beside us, that He supports and encourages and blesses along the way.
There's Mommy and Holden.
I think the lesson for me was it's okay to be angry with God. It's okay to be frustrated. God has big shoulders. God hears us when we pray.
You may not kiss the bride.
Oh, hello. Hey, Holden. Hi, baby.